Away we go. It's Chicken Dinner. Welcome to it on a Thursday night, March 13th. The madness is here. And if you're anything like me, you've been betting on college basketball all day. Not just today, but you did it yesterday, and you'll probably do it tomorrow. And of course, it only ramps up in March Madness, which technically begins next Tuesday with the play-in games. Then again on Wednesday, and then we bet all day next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Are you ready? Let's go. I'm Sam Paniatovich on X at SP Shoot. Great guest list today. We're going to talk to Rick Allec, who's the CEO of OddsLogic, which powers Chicken Dinner Live. He'll join us in about 10 minutes from now to explain his background in the space and why the odds screen is so important as a tool to help you make money. A lot of you have several betting apps, but an odds screen allows you to shop all of them at once and see live line moves. So if you have a DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, Caesars, you have some local PPHs, you're able to see all of these numbers at the same time and have an idea of where sharp books are, square books are, all of that. And Rick has built OddsLogic, and he's been in the business for a long, long time. So we'll talk about that. And he's also going to give us a demonstration. I don't know how long, but enough to wet your whistle and show you why the odds screen is paramount if you're looking to bet and bet with immediacy. And then a little after 7:30, we're going to do another roundtable. The hottest college capper right now, his name is Rac Jac. He's on social. You've seen him. I've talked to him, tweeted at him. He's going to join us. Jeff Nadu, who I saw running on a treadmill today in a challenge with I don't know who, he'll join us as well. And backed by popular demand, everybody's favorite Corbie Craig, who has been crunching the numbers on Duke with Cooper Flag, with an injured Cooper Flag, and with no Cooper Flag. I think he's worth about 5 points. And I talked to Chris Andrews for a story this week on Fox about how he weighs the heavy hitters. And he said he's got Duke 2 on a neutral over Auburn. So what is Duke Auburn without Cooper Flag? If that's the case, as I share my screen, if you're watching on YouTube and X, that is the picture of the season. Number 1 overall pick in the making, Cooper Flag, who reminds me of a young Kevin Garnett playing at Farragut. I know they don't look the same, but they play the same, boys and girls. And if you don't believe me, type in Kevin Garnett Chicago or Kevin Garnett Farragut. Garnett's a little bit bigger, height-wise. Flag is stockier, but they both play above the rim. And they go up and get everything. So that picture is from the ACC tournament today. And Flag leaps, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet off the ground to grab a ball, comes down, looks like he busts his ankle. And they wheel him off the court, and you're like, shit. That's it. That's it for Duke, which would crush me on Bet Sweats on Chicken Dinner. I've been talking about Duke for a while now. Joe and I bet them to win the title. Oh, geez, early February, 650, 6.25. And coming into this week, they're in that low 3-1 range. Did you see FanDuel moved Duke to 7-1? Flag's getting carted off the court, wheeled off the court, and FanDuel's going out to 6-7-1. It didn't look good. And I'm getting texts like, uh-oh, I got a tweet. Nice call on Duke, dipshit. You know how it goes. People get upset and get in their feelings. And it's my fault that Cooper Flag got hurt, of course. But then he's out there after the half. First half gets hurt, wheeled off. Second half, he's kind of out there with the team. Now, they eventually held him out. And the reports are initially saying that he's not going to return in ACC play, which is the smart thing to do. Here's what John Shire, head coach of Duke, said. This is from the field of 68. He sprained his ankle. X-rays negative, which is great. Shire continues, we have to see how he recovers and how he goes from there. I imagine he's going to play next week. And it'll be interesting to see how the tournament and the selection committee plots Duke out. We know the Dukies are a number 1 seed, but do they play on Thursday or on Friday? Does he get the push? Does he get the push and get the extra day? Probably. Shit, I would too. He's your best player. So let's make it possible for him to play on Friday and Sunday. I have no idea what he's like, though. I'm not there. I'm not going to pretend to be there. But I was thinking about this, and here's a story on Fox if you want to check this out. I love writing when I get to talk to Chris Andrews from the South Point, who's been out in Nevada for decades. This is the story we did. He needs Auburn out early because he got popped, I believe, in the summer at 22-1. He got popped so hard he went all the way to 12-1 and then got popped again. So then he went to 8-1 or whatever. And this is in the summer. So he's extremely liable on Auburn. And as you see the title there, I'll take an early Auburn exit. That's a quote from Chris. But he said in this story, and you can find it on foxsports.com. Trying to remember which part of the story. Here it is. I have Duke a slight favorite over Auburn, maybe -2. Then it's Houston a couple points behind Auburn, then Florida. So if Flag, let's just play this out. If Flag doesn't play in the tournament and Auburn and Duke somehow met, which is unlikely, I would make Auburn, 3. Auburn -3. That seems fair because how are people going to bet it? You can't open it, pick them. Auburn has to be favored without Flag. I mean, there's one thing about making a number, but then you have to book the game. And there's no way you can make Auburn and Duke without Flag a pick 'em. So I start at 2. I flip it 4 points. Duke -2 to Auburn -2. But then you think about how they bet it. That first bet probably gets written on Auburn. So I'm not a bookie, nor do I pretend to be one. I think it would be Auburn -3. And maybe Rick Allec has a thought on that. But Cooper Flag to me is a 5-point player. That's what I would do. But that story is up right now on foxsports.com. And one more quick thing on Duke. This is sort of where the market's at now, at least across the country in the American shops, as I call them, not in Vegas, but around the country. Best price you can get right now, +375 on Duke. If he's healthy, I still like that price, but we just don't know. And I don't want people to pile on. If you already have Duke, I wouldn't add more. If you don't have Duke, I don't know that I would add at all. 375 at MGM, 360 DraftKings, 350 FanDuel, 350 Caesars. 7-1 did not last at FanDuel. This is the team the people I respect. Pow, Florida. I know. You missed the best numbers, obviously. They were 80, 100-1 before the season. The guys that I respect like Florida, and one of them bet 5,000 on Florida at 8-1 once Flag got hurt. He said, I don't care if he's healthy or not. He's not going to be the same. That's one man's opinion. I don't know. That's just from somebody that I really respect. This morning, we were talking about on BetSweats parlaying Duke to win the title, Scheffler to win the Masters. It was 22-1. That took a shot today. But that's what one very sharp college basketball cat told me. I bet Florida. Here's what I bet. DJ Chapman chiming in. Sammy P, the Ireland 9.5. That is true. I'm beautiful in Ireland. In the States, I'm a hard 7.5. This from Brian. They probably wouldn't need to play him in round 1 anyway in the tournament. I agree. Why would you? If he can play, though, he's going to play. And from Trip, does the committee do what they did with Cincinnati when they had Kenyon Martin and moved Duke to a 2 seed? Flag playing the first weekend is unlikely. I don't know that, Trip. I don't know that it's unlikely. I don't know anything. They don't need him in the first game. But let's not forget, there's a possibility Duke gets either UConn or Gonzaga in the second game. And they need Flag for that game. They can win without him, but it would be much more welcome if he could play. So we'll see how all that shakes out. I see Rick is in the green room here. I'm going to get to him in 1 second. Last order of business is the New York Yankees. And I don't know how much you've been following the win totals. The Yankees last Monday were priced 93.5, 94.5, which is fair for the Yankees with all the bodies they have, the arms they have, but they no longer have several of those guys. Garrett Cole is probably out for a long time and probably needs Tommy John. Juan Soto's in Queens. He's gone. Those two together, that's 12 wins on a bad like a bad downturn, that's 12 wins. On a great season for both of them, they could be worth much more than that. Stanton's already hurt, elbow problems, and Luis Heel has shoulder issues, I believe, and he's out for 2-3 months. So if you add all those wins up, and we were at 93.5, 94.5, I know you could never go lower than like 84, 83, but is 89.5 at Rivers right? Fuck me. I don't think so. 88.5, 88.5, 87.5. I mean, if they don't have Garrett Cole or Luis Heel in the rotation, they're in trouble, guys. They are. And you don't have the protection around Judge. Now you take Soto and potentially Stanton out of the way. They have a nice team. They don't have a great team. I don't know about the missed playoff market because, the AL's kind of average. Here's the Yankees. 240 on the ceiling, 150 on the floor, plus 150 at Caesars to miss the playoffs. The Tigers, the Guardians, the Royals, the Mariners, they're all around 85 wins, give or take. So this is not a loaded American League. They can still make the playoffs, but you hang an 89.5 in my face. Yeah, I'm gonna take the under there at minus 110. So you may want to hurry up on that one. Okay. I see Rick Allec, who's the CEO of OddsLogic, joining the program here. Hello, Rick. Before you say anything, I'm going to give you the time to share your screen because we do have the ability to do that. I have to remove my sharing so that you can share. Rick and I have been doing business in the background for a long time, and he has built an incredible product. Those of you that watch every week know that I am on this screen 6-7 hours a day. And Rick is the one that put it together. So, Rick, first of all, welcome to the program. There is the Christmas tree-looking OddsLogic board. How are you on a Thursday night?
I'm doing well, Sam. How you doing?
I'm just sweating games, man. I can't wait. But I also, at 4 Eastern, I'm ready for it to be over. You know what I mean? There's
right.
It could go on. And you know which two teams were on my short list today? Marquette minus 2.5. They get banked from half court and don't cover. And then Wisconsin minus 8. They're up 18 and win by 7. Northwestern hits the 3 at the buzzer. I stayed off them, but that's what happens in March Madness, as you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So the number is important, I hear. That's what I've been hearing as I've gotten older, the importance of the number, but also not just the number where you bet, the number everywhere, what the market is. And you have built this fantastic tool. I want to give you a few minutes at the end to sort of show us some of the tricks. But why is it so important for somebody that doesn't use an odds screen? Why is it so important to know where the market is at all times?
Well, the simplest thing for an odds screen to do for you is quick odds shopping. If you're betting more than $100 a game, even less than that, you can justify it. You should have multiple accounts, and an odds screen shows you the best odds immediately, real time, and tells you where to make your bet. And right there, a half point saved once a week, that turns you from a loser to a break-even bettor. Just that alone. But what the odds screen does more with having all of these sports books on there, because a lot of times people say, I have a DraftKings and I have a FanDuel account. Why do I need all of these sports books? It's because it tells you when you should be making your bets as well. You can see where the market is, and you can see some of the market making books, and you can get an idea of where these lines are going. So here's a good example right here. You got Pinnacle sitting at 2, and you got everyone else sitting at 1.5. Now they're plus money, but these things start to show you and here's another sharp book. They're minus 2. These show you where the line might be going. So if you're just a regular everyday bettor, I'm not sitting here trying to make your pastime harder. I'm just trying to tell you that if you get the best odds on every bet you make, and you make the bets at the right time on every bet you make, sometimes early, sometimes late, depending on where these market indicating books are, you're just going to win more money. It's just that simple.
You brought up market makers. I'll give my list. You've been doing this in the odds business longer than I have, but on the left side of my screen, and people have seen it and asked about it and signed up with you, I have Circa, Pinnacle, and Chris. 1, 2, 3. That's just the way I like it. I've figured out my motion, if you will. I have those 3 all the way to the left. And then I have the rec books in the middle. I have a couple of them. I have DraftKings, FanDuel, and MGM, obviously. And then I have the offshores and the PPHs. So that's my order. When you use the term market makers, who are the first couple books that come to mind?
Well, for sure, it's Circa, Pinnacle, and Chris / Sports 411.
Yep.
The one that people don't think about a lot is Bet Online. And Bet Online, we actually include Bet Online in a lot of the consensus work that we do when we're looking at market making books. And it's just because of the kind of the volume that they take. So I think that they're onshore. After you pass Circa, surprisingly, FanDuel. FanDuel they do a lot of analytic work, and they do some good work. And if you watch their lines, they're not just following everybody else. They'll wait. Sometimes they're early. They don't overreact to injury information. They're putting some care into their lines.
They've gotten better. I will say that. I wouldn't put them on the same level as the first ones we mentioned, but I think consolidation has strengthened DraftKings and FanDuel and MGM. I do, because there were some really good bookmakers at some of these other places, and those places didn't last because you can't keep them all open. But I think DraftKings and FanDuel found a really nice way to not poach, but poach. They poach the good guys, right? And the better team you have, the more aggressive you can be when you're opening a market.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we're seeing is they spent 5 years just acquiring customers. And then pretty soon they said, well, there's really no one else for us to acquire customers from. Like, we won. DraftKings and FanDuel, they won. FanDuel won. DraftKings is a solid second place. And so from there, what do you do next? They have plenty of offerings. I don't think there's the next big thing coming to sports betting. And so it makes sense to sharpen up their lines.
I will say, though, I did laugh last year. I was in Vegas. You and I sat down last August, and then I was back in March for the tournament. And, I have Selection Sunday show on in the background, but I'm sitting at the screen. And I'll give them credit. DraftKings was popping them first. They weren't right, but and that's one of my favorite things to do every year, because that's March Madness. That's the one time where there's no market and then there's a market, and people come up at different times. But DraftKings was first on a lot, and they would open a team 4.5, and then Superbook would open 6, and then Circa would open 7, and we'd eventually get there. But to watch a market form on an odd screen, it's exciting. I'm a little nerdy in saying that, but I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh, I absolutely do. I love when a non-market making book starts setting early lines. It's just entertaining. And I also appreciate them doing it, because what they're saying is, we know we're not going to be right. We're not smarter than all these other books. We just want to put something up there and we want to take action. And that's one thing I appreciate about DraftKings. I've met with the guys here in Vegas, the DraftKings office that they run here in Vegas, and they just want lines up. An interesting thing, if you watch them on their live, they are up deeper and longer than any other sports book. That sounded wrong, but that is the case. It is what they do.
Sure.
And so they are, and I talked to one of their head guys on their live side, and he loved to hear that compliment or that feedback, which he took as a compliment. It's pretty impressive. And I think that, I appreciate, I'm an old school bookmaking kind of guy. And I love people trying to drive up volume, drive up action in their book.
How old is old school? I don't need your age, but how long have you been doing this for?
I wrote my first bet in 1990.
Right when UNLV was the cream of the crop.
And when I say wrote, I mean I wrote the bet.
Oh. Pencil? No pen, pencil.
That's right.
So you've seen the evolution. I mean, you're one of the guys that started writing tickets with hand, and now you have an odd screen that can show you every book in every town. I mean, back in the day, I'm sure you've heard more stories than I have over the years, but a guy would have a guy at every book, and forget mobile apps. I mean, you got Louis over at the Flamingo, and Joey's over there, and Tony's over there, and guys on a headset saying, all right, what's the number here? What's the number there? And then you get the best number. The process hasn't changed, but the technology has.
Yeah, listen, in my early years, one of the jobs I had, I worked for a betting syndicate that was moving into the United States. And I did some work for them on the programming side, but since I was in Vegas, my daily job during college basketball was to go down to the Stardust. And at the time, the Stardust was the opening line. And to bet into the opening line, they did a lottery. So you would get there early, you would put your name in there, they would draw out the names, and whoever was first would walk up to the counter, and you could make, I think it was 5 bets, and then you had to step back. And then the next person who was number 2 could go up to the counter and they could make their 5 bets. And so every morning I would get up, we would run our numbers, I would go down to the Stardust with a pocket full of cash, and I'd make the bets. And some of the guys that are still around, that have become the mainstream bookmakers, they were there early, cutting their teeth on the bookmaking side of it, and I was on the other side, betting for the syndicate. It was quite entertaining.
The way the Stardust phones were described to me, those are the most expensive phones in the United States, right? I mean, the people that had to work those phones when the lines were coming out, I mean, it was a rush to get to those phones.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
had a couple people tell me about that. I want to let you do show and tell. We got about 10 minutes to go, so I want to give you plenty of time. Before we do that, what are you most proud of with your service right now?
This is my 3rd iteration of an on screen. So, I started out with Don Best, and every version of Don Best that you saw after the original version, I was the lead architect with. I then went on to sports options, and everybody said, "Oh, you're just going to copy what you did at Don Best." And I said, "No, I'm going to do better than we did at Don Best." And now here I am again, doing it again for the 3rd time. And everybody says, "You're just going to copy what you did at Don Best at sports options." And I said, "No, now I'm going to do everything different." What I'm proud about is that in those early days, we had such a limited amount of data that we ever dealt with. And so as we sat down to build out this product, I said, we have to handle everything. And I said, the true test is going to be is that when I run this product and I am staring at DraftKings, FanDuel, et cetera, and their lines are changing on our screen, and I am looking at my app and I'm getting ready to make bets. This is when I'm in Colorado. Unfortunately, I can't bet with them when I'm in Nevada. When I'm getting ready to make my bets, that this line is reflective. In other words, I stake my reputation on real time, and real time has become this vague term, but real time to me means real time. Those lines have to be changed in real time. And what we've been able to do is take the technology that we had built back when they never thought about in-game. They never thought about props every day. They never thought about derivatives. And we have built out a screen that handles all of that just as fast as we did in the early days. The next thing I'm proud of is that we do it at a fantastic price. Our entry price point right now, $99. It's not always going to be $99. We're going to split this into 2 versions. We'll have a pro and a standard. However, there will always be affordable versions, and everything we do will always be affordable. And that's one thing that I've always wanted to do. I cut my teeth in the industry. I have friends on both sides of the counters, and I want to provide a super solid, robust product for a really good price. And we've done it again.
$3 a day.
$3 a day.
Yeah, that's it. And if you're betting 100, 500 a game, why wouldn't you want to get the best number? So, okay, if you're watching on YouTube and X, this will be a nice treat for you. If you're listening, go watch it. Watch it back. But I'm going to let Rick take the controls here. You have the power, buddy. You have the wand in your hand. How do you use OddsLogic?
Perfect. So I want to show some things that are unique to OddsLogic versus some of the other odds screens that you see out there. So one thing that we did with OddsLogic is we built it around this concept of what we call views. And views are what you see across here. Now, what's unique about a view? A view can be an individual league, NBA. A view can be all of basketball, where I get everything that's that's on basketball. Now I got all my leagues in there. It's kind of an old school way of doing it by having allowing people to have everything under one view. But this is what people love. Now I scroll down. I got my NBA. I got my college basketball all the way down here. And then I got all of the international leagues. So it's a super easy way to see it. The other thing that we did here is we made it easy to pop around to these individual leagues. You can come here, I want basketball. and I can see everything that's available, and I can pop down to it. I can pop down to China and see the leagues or the books that are up there.
Don't pop down to China. Don't do it. Bad idea. Although I will say, Rick, in the pandemic years, I was betting a lot of stuff I'm not proud of, but different story for a different day, maybe.
Yeah, we found out that people will bet everything then, and Colorado has their table tennis still going that started in pandemic. They get a ton of volume there.
Other thing we do is I think I want to talk about the colors next because I'm a visual guy.
Perfect.
Even though I'm a radio guy.
It's a good time to talk about it because we just added a new feature, and that's where you can highlight and change the highlights of your rows and columns. So I can come here and I can say, you know what, I want my columns to be blue when I highlight them. And then I want my rows to be green when I highlight them. And I can also change the color of my line changes and how long they stay those colors. So if I like my early line changes to come in red, they stay red for 2 minutes, then they go to yellow, they stay yellow for 3 minutes, and then they stay green for 5 minutes. And then the other options we have are the line movement arrows, shows you if it line's moving up or down. All of it's customizable. You can turn it off. You can have it set however you want. Now what I can do is I can come in here, and if I just want to highlight FanDuel and then highlight Pinnacle, I can keep those highlighted. Now maybe I have a couple games that I want to highlight. I can keep those highlighted.
Just by a click. Just one click and it highlights it.
One click and it highlights it. I can unhighlight it, and away we go. This is super useful for people that are zeroing in on a couple specific sports books, a couple specific games, etc. We don't have it quite yet, but eventually you're going to be able to set those colors individually by the rows and columns as well. So it'll get super customizable.
It'll look like a fucking Picasso painting if you wanted to. You could just have whatever color and whatever scheme you want.
You know, it's funny as I travel around and with Don Best and Sports Options, and I would see customers using it, and I would almost be offended by what they had done to our screen. They had the colors they would use and the way that they would have them set up. We got notifications. We'll send out alerts. We send out halftime score pop-ups. We send final score pop-ups, regular notices. You can customize it by all the different leagues. You can turn it on and off for any individual league, etc. Getting the pop-ups for the half times is fantastic. It shows you what the accumulated scores were for the first half. Let me show you something real quick on views. Something sure. I'm real proud of. So on views, aside from being able to set it up and see your leagues and so forth, you can set up a view based on events. So now what I can do is I can come in here and I can say, you know what, it's college basketball. I only care about this game, etc. And now I can save it and I can call it my bets. Save and save. And now I got just my bets right here. So this is a great way to take the games that you want to follow, whether you're following before you've made the bets and you just want to keep an eye on them, you got leans on them, whatever you want to do, and you have your own view. You can change these in and out, remove them, add them in the next day, etc. So it's a great tool for people that really want to just watch the games that they're focused in on.
It's such a great tool. And we have a couple comments here, Rick, if I may. This is from Rob, who says, love OddsLogic, by far the best. That's a pretty telling compliment. It's one thing if I say it, it's another thing if somebody else says it. This is from Trip, who says, question, is the platform compatible with all OS, Windows, Apple, Chrome, and all browsers?
Yes.
Very simple yes, no there. Very simple. How about from Benny? Do you import the books you use? Like if I want to add my local?
We don't have a way for you to do it on your own. However, if you put us in contact with a book, we will put their lines up there.
And you have, if you can, Rick, why don't you show me all the books that you have, if you can pull those up quickly? Because you have a bunch of the books that I use. Like my bookies use, Jazz and Heritage. So it's not your exact book, but a lot of these, these local agents and their bosses, they use the offshores or the paper heads. So it's just a skin. I'm looking, you got the list in front of you. How many books is that paper head wise?
So I think we have 25 books up there, but as you can see, you start up here. We have all the US books, or the big ones. We're working on Bet365 is the next one we're going to be adding. But then you get down here, we got Heritage, we got Buckeye, Bet105, Jazz, Bovada. We got all the books down here. We have per heads, and you are right. A lot of times we'll have a per head that's called Bet STS, and someone else will have a per head that's called Bet ABC, and it's the same place. They're just skinned a lot of times the same place. Also, like I mentioned, we can put books up there. So, and we want to put more books up there. It's good. It's good for everybody. Something I should show you while we're here that you can do with our screen as well is if you want to have a column up there that shows a different line type, I can put up a column up there that's just my money lines. Now I can have my money lines up there all the time. So if I want to have, say, FanDuel game money line, I put it up there.
And it's up there with the sides and totals.
And now it's just up there next to the sides and totals.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
And you can do that. You can do that with all the different line types. So here's all the different line types that we have up there. We have all the periods, and for every period, we have spread, money, team total, assuming the books put them up there, etc. And what's even better is as long as the books are posting them, we have it for the live as well. So you can bounce around to all the different line types real quick there. If you're someone that wants to see one all the time, you can put up a column right there. So, and we're adding more books all the time. I want to show you one last thing that happened here. I'm going to change back here to game, and I know I might be taking on someone else's time. But I think this is another great value of an odds screen. So of our odds screen. So today we sent out Sabonis, downgraded to ruled out. We sent it at 3:30:12. This is Pacific time, 3:30:12. You come over here, you pop over to one of these books, you can look at the line history, and you can see at 3:30:55, they took the line down. So you had a half a minute where you could still get the line before it was moved on that injury. And that line moved a half a point. If you come over here to Pinnacle, I'm sorry. Come over here to Sports 411. That was the one I had checked before. Yeah, they ended up moving a full point. And again, you had plenty of time to get that bet down before the books moved. So again, if you have the odds screen running, one thing that I talk about a lot when I talk about our product, because there's lots of products out there, and some of them I have a beef with because they make you work too hard to get the value of their product. And what I like about our product is you can put as much work into it as you want. So even with that right there, even if you just have it up and running and you hear the alert for an injury, you see it, you can see what's going on right away in the market, and you still got time to make your bets.
I think we've covered every part of OddsLogic. If you want to learn more, shoot me a note, reach out to Rick at OddsLogic, and we will figure something out, because this is a tool that you should certainly consider if you're trying to beat these markets that move not by the minute, by the second. And it's all day long. It's not like the stock market when the bell rings and you go home. No, this is moving all night. And I did watch a lot of OddsLogic. I'm not going to lie. It was late night Sam watching the Missouri Valley totals open at 150. And then I wake up in the morning and it's 142. And then by tip-off, it's 138, and it still goes under, Rick. I don't know how, but the lines were moving, and they move with OddsLogic. I appreciate you so much for coming on. Thank you for the tour, and I will see you hopefully next week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, that's Rick Allec, CEO from OddsLogic. Lots to unpack there, but again, I use this all day. If I'm awake, if I'm home, it's on my screen. I need a drink. That was a lot. We learned a lot there. And I see my three guests all in the background. He doesn't drink on weekdays. Host of the sit down. I saw him running on a treadmill today. Jeff Nadu, back on Chicken Dinner. What's up?
What up? What's good, Sam? You all right?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I'm just shaking and moving here. Back by popular demand, everybody's favorite Corbie Craig. Better odds in the house. Christmas tree is down. Woodford Reserve in hand.
I do drink on the weekdays, so we'll have a good time.
Jeff, when did he take that tree down, by the way? It was on like its last leg in the end of January, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was around maybe like February 1, I think.
Bragging rights for the show.
Sad part is he is pretty close. I think it was February 1, so we'll take it. I think Christmas is a cool holiday, guys. Sorry about that.
It took a long time, but I'm glad that it's down. And arguably, as I was told today, he's the hottest college handicapper going right now, and I agree with it. My buddy Rac Jac, who joins us now.
Wow.
You've been on a tear for what feels like, I was in Ireland, and you were texting me. It's 4 a.m. local time, and you're texting me results. You've been hot, buddy. How long has it been this stretch?
It's been a good 2 months. Real hot. Speaking of, Boise just finished for us.
Oh, they did?
So,
they got home?
Yep.
Good.
So
Good.
we're rolling pretty good. I didn't know. Go ahead. I didn't know drinking was allowed on the show. I just brought water with me.
Oh, well, thanks for watching the show every week because we always drink.
I'm joking. I'm kidding. I know.
I'm playing. We got hurt by that buzzer beater on Xavier, but that's what happens in March, boys. How have the days gone today? Jeff, we'll start with you. Maybe yesterday, today. How's the action been?
It's all right. I think to me, and I don't know what these guys think, but I generally tiptoe into Wednesday and Thursday. You got a lot of bad teams playing, quite frankly. Thursday gets a little bit better. Most of the conference tournaments are over as far as the little ones. The big boys really get going over the next day or two. I have to admit, I was on the right side of the Xavier one. I'll be quite frank. I thought it was the right side. That said, I want to hear more about this run that your boy's on. That sounds pretty interesting. But I haven't had the greatest run. That said, hopefully we can finish out the day hot.
We're all rounded into form, right, Corbie?
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast. You know me. I couldn't tell you half the stuff that's been happening. I just click numbers. I see that I'm opposite. I think Ras. I'm assuming it was them because a random game I bet moved 2.5 points at like 5 p.m. Central. So I'm assuming Ras had a late release that Bet Online held for 30 seconds. So now I'm sitting. I haven't had anything today. Got 3 totals for tonight. All the worst games you could possibly imagine. So it'll be fun times.
Rac Jac, you and I were doing the Valley thing last week. We did that dance, and I think you've done a really good job, and I know Jeff does this and Corbie does this too. You got to bet these day-to-day tournaments. You got to bet them the night before if you like the side, right? Why risk it? You've given out some games, and you give them out on X for free. You give out Carolina, I think it was 4.5 last night. It's 6.5 at tip. You know where the money's going to go in these games for the most part. You know where it's coming. How important is it to bet not even overnight, but early in the morning? Because these lines and totals, man, last week or so, last 8-9 days, they've been flying.
Yeah, you're 100% right. You got to hit these things on the previous night, midnight, 1 a.m. You got to stay up late. You got to make the stuff happen. On Twitter, I'll put plays out. I'll play the total or to decide at the time. So if I put out plays on Twitter like noon, I'll give the number at that because you know how DMs are. People are shooting DMs. Hey, why'd you get this line at this time? People are always bitching about stuff like that. But you're right. You definitely got to do it the night before. Like last night, BYU, I hit hard because I knew Iowa State. I knew Lipsy and Gilbert weren't going to play, even though they said they were. You can't take a chance with guys' groins going into NCAA tournament time.
Right. I will say, Sammy, on that game, I had the under in that game. Probably the worst call of the season, probably.
I love you've given 2 examples. The buzzer beater you were on the right side of, but the call you were on the wrong side of.
No, and I knew about 5 minutes in. It was like 15-10, 5 minutes in. It's like, that's over.
I had a guy I liked, or that I like, who had Wisconsin today, and he played him 7.5. I had it in the trigger. I had -8. I just couldn't. I was like, Northwestern's just kind of funky. Wisconsin was up 18 and got dicked at the end. They're up 10, miss a layup. Northwestern calls timeout, drains a 3, no foul. Wisconsin by 7. It's a bad beat, but that happens.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead.
Real quick. When Buzz Williams called that timeout after Wade Taylor hits that 3 and it didn't count, they then Texas go down and shoot and make it 3. That was over. What a horrific decision. Just a terrible decision.
Yeah.
What have we seen, guys, that we have liked so far. I also don't want to keep playing traffic cop. Just jump in if you got something to say. I don't want to keep teeing people up because I want this to be a conversation. What have we seen today, maybe yesterday, that we've really liked in terms of player or team or both? Anybody, take it away.
Yeah, I got a couple. First one isn't today or yesterday, but this Alabama team, like I've kind of been the hater of Alabama all season. I think that the NATO style of analytics and playing the analytic game is correct when you're playing top competition, but like often they just shoot the dumbest threes I've ever seen. Like they're like high pick and roll into the corner three, just like a step back, awful shot, and they did it all year. In the last like 4 games, you go look, they have reduced number of threes per game a ton. They are getting to the basket, which is what this offense is. It is a rim and 3 offense, and somehow we lost that in the nature of the beast, just going to the 3. If Alabama is driving to the basket, like we saw them beat Auburn with Mark Steers kind of playing awful. I know Auburn didn't really have anything to play for, but I mean it's still a rivalry, right? This Alabama team's a lot better if they're going to the basket. So in the short term, I am bullish on Bama, and that's coming from a guy who has not liked this team all year.
I'll throw out St. John's. I mean, a story all year. I mean, this team has lost 1 time since December 31st, the end of the year. And you look at it, we know how good they are defensively. They're absolutely shut down. But, I mean, this team has found ways to score a bunch too recently. I remember everybody and their mother was telling me that it was a terrible spot. It was the end of the season. Davon Smith wasn't playing, and they found a way to beat Marquette in a high-scoring game in overtime. They really bullied Butler today, a team that actually held them tough in 2 games this season. Came in and beat them up. There's not really much standing in front of this team till the final. UConn's going to get another crack, but do they have actually the horses to do it? This team's going into March, the tournament, with a lot of confidence, and I think they're better offensively than maybe their numbers may indicate. It's going to take a really good outing to beat them because they're so good on defense.
They just play so hard, Rac Jac, right? I mean, they play the type of defense that coaches dream about, and when they don't, Pitino lights them up. And they turn it up in the second half.
Just one other note, real quick. This team is 28-4 and on the cusp of a top 3 seed, and they've shot 30% from 3 this season. I mean, 51.5% from 2. It's the offensive rebounds. It's not turning the basketball over, and it's playing defense. If they start to make shots in the tournament, they're going to be very difficult to beat. It's just that simple.
Yeah. I'll give you a team I despise, and that's Gonzaga.
Corbie loves the Gonzaga.
I mean, these predictive metrics, I mean, sometimes I rag on them. How they have that team 9th in the country is beyond me. I don't want to get myself in any trouble here, like when the Florida State kid said, if Boston College beats Florida State, remember after they lost to Ireland, he said he would eat shit in college football?
Out of the cup, solo cup.
Yes. If Gonzaga makes the Final Four, I will eat shit.
You didn't have to say it, but you kind of just said
I'll say it. I'll go out. I don't understand the love of that team. I mean, they're solid, but everybody's riding that Baylor game 1. What were their best wins this year? Baylor, Indiana, St. Mary's. I mean, I don't see it with that team. I'm just not.
I kept buying numbers too, man. I bought 40. I bought 60. And I did, unfortunately, guys, I heard a bookmaker yesterday on the phone say, I wouldn't want to play them in round 2. And I thought, don't let me get excited again. Don't let me bet more, because I get it. It's not going to be a fun matchup for a 1 seed if they are an 8 or a 9, but I don't see it. And you can
here's why
about the unlucky metric all you want, Jeff. Like, they're the 15th unluckiest team in the country. So what? They're not the same team as they've been.
Well, here's what I'll push back on, okay? And it all comes down to how certain players play over a 2 or 3 game series. They have a great big. EK's terrific. Nembhard is a really good guard. Hickman I like. Battle's played well recently. The issue they have here, when they are at their best defensively, Innocente has to play. He's an elite defender. The problem is he gives you nothing on offense. They're not real deep. I think offensively they can play with anybody in the country. The issue is going to come defensively. If they can't keep a team, if a team wants to get up and run, they'll get beat up. They can't defend. That's kind of been the problem. That was the issue with San Francisco this year. The wings kind of beat them up too. So I like them. I'm more bullish on them than not, than bearish, I guess. But everybody needs to kind of play well. Battle's the key. If Battle can give them 15, 20 points a game in the tournament, they'll be another team hard to beat. But I get the point on kind of where they are. I don't believe they're a top 10 team, surely. I agree with that. But I think they can win 2 games, probably.
I like Huff, too. Huff's a nice player.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Huff is good. Huff has issues staying on the floor sometimes, which drives me nuts. And I think it's not his fault half the time. So I'm on the Bracket Matrix website right now, bracketmatrix.com. I don't live here, but for content purposes, let's group the 3s and the 4s together and ask you guys about which one maybe you're more excited to bet. So right now they've got Texas Tech, Iowa State, Kentucky, Texas A&M as the 3s. If there's a team in there one of you likes, by all means, go for it. The 4s are Wisconsin, Maryland, Purdue, 3 Big Ten teams, and Clemson. Those are the 4s. Where do we want to go?
Yeah, I'll start it off with something I've seen as like a trending take on Twitter is that this Maryland team just so happens to be God's gift to earth. In the last month and a half, I've seen more people say this team's going to get to the Final Four than any team I don't know what we watched. I disagree. I mean, I'm not even low on this team. It's just like, how did this become the sentiment we're talking about? Is like I literally got 2 DMs today. It's like, what do you think about my boys going to the Final Four? Like, I think this is their year. And it's like, I mean, they're good, but like, I don't think they're any better than any of the other 4 seeds. Like, I mean, it's crazy to me. Off the list you just said, I see less good teams, more bad teams. Tech is a really good team. I think Tech, even through some injury issues, has been good. But like A&M, we saw A&M today play way too much ISO basketball. That's a team that could lose very quickly. I think there's a few spots where they lose. I don't think any of those 3s or 4s outside of like Tech, maybe Wisconsin, really just blow me away by any means.
Let me hit on Maryland. Okay, I want to take you back to 2007. I was 17 years old. I was a young high schooler. I remember it well. That's the first year Kevin Willard became a Division I college basketball coach. It's 2025, folks. Do you know how many college basketball tournament wins he has? I'll tell you, 2. I'm not betting this guy in the NCAA tournament. He's had good team after good team. Remember some of the teams he had at Seton Hall? What did he win? Ugats. He hasn't won anything in 8 years, I don't think. And I know he'll fall on the fact, well, one was canceled and this happened here and this happened here. Doesn't matter. I can't bet on him long term. The only person worse that's currently a coach is Fran McCaffrey, who's I think been a coach for like 25 years and won 1 game past the round of 64. I'll give you a team to bet on. Texas Tech. I think this team is very good on both ends. They're completely healthy now, which is big going into the NCAA tournament. We saw that, they had some guys out at times, Darian Williams, JT Toppin, McMillan. Everybody's healthy. They're very good defensively. They're a top 10 offense. They make free throws. They really do nothing, I think, at a poor level. They're very good on every level. They have some big wins this season. They're a team that I'm very high on. I like Grant McCastle's team a lot.
I'm with Nadu. I love Texas Tech. He nailed pretty much everything. I like the kid Hawkins, the transfer from Minnesota as well. I have to give up on Iowa State. I've been on them all year. This Lipsy and Gilbert stuff, they're not getting healthy. I mean, they're banged. These groin injuries aren't going to go away. I just have to get off the train. Early in the year, they looked great. I mean, they had Auburn beat. I really like them to go all the way. I sprinkled a little bit of that, and I just have to jump off that train. They're finished, I think, maybe before this week 16.
Another issue too with one thing Corbie talked about it with A&M. Look, I think when they're on, right, when they're getting all their rebounds, when Phelps plays well, when Obaski plays well, when Wade Taylor plays well, they're a tough team to beat. That said, that doesn't happen very often. Zurich Phelps was a disaster today, like a disaster. And you can't have Wade Taylor just being the only guy. That there needs to be more. The defense doesn't look as crisp. And I'll agree. I would sell Iowa State as well. The too many injuries right now. The defense has not looked anywhere near as it looked in years past. Just really limping in. Today was ugly, quite honestly, defensively. That was rough. And they don't have everything going at the right times. I'm
curious what you guys do with Duke now. I'm not saying like, do we bet them or not at 375, but is it a bet on ATS? Is it a wait and see? Is it a fade? Because Cooper Flagg probably goes, but I don't know how we quantify that. And Corbie, you did some tinkering with Duke. I know that you and I talked before the show about Duke maybe being 2 on Auburn if everybody's healthy. But, I mean, Flagg is not 100%, nowhere near it. How do you quantify Cooper Flagg? How much is he worth? And if he's not playing, like, where does that number go? How much does he, account for what they do on the floor?
Yeah, the good news is Cooper Flagg got hurt early enough that I think that if for some reason he can't play, they're going to see a lot of good teams in the next week and a half, enough that like he can kind of piece together this lineup. This is a very good lineup. Like can piece together his worth at least a little bit. I mean, obviously he's the best player in the nation. If Auburn played Duke with Flagg 90%, I'm at Duke 2. 100% was like Duke 2.5 shade 3. And without Flagg at all was Auburn 2.5, 3. So I still think Duke's the best team in the nation. I look at this team and I'm thoroughly impressed. Also, it just feels like, I mean, obviously I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but it feels like a really fast like grave dig. Everyone was just like, Cooper Flagg, he's done for the year. I mean, he sprained his ankle. It was a high ankle sprain. People were like, he's in a wheelchair. It's like, yes, it's the easiest way to get a guy to the X-ray table as fast as possible. Would you rather him limp or just sit in a wheelchair real quick? I didn't put too much weight on like what we saw today. Glad he got to come back and sit on the bench. More important than all of this is like, I just hope he's fine. It sounded like Snyder was pretty confident in the fact that like the only way he plays in the ACC tournament is if he is convinced by every person in the locker room. He's like, we have much more important things, which is great. This is just college basketball, and Cooper Flagg has a career on his shoulders for sure. And
what's going to happen is we're going to have to go back to what Jack said at the beginning. You got to bet these guys. I already bet Carolina tomorrow. I already bet it 7.5. I had it a few days ago. They completely pissed down their leg. I mean, they were winning.
I had plus 11. I was so
did I. It was terrible. And they lose by 13. Just insane. And that was with Cooper Flagg. We have to though point out, and I'll do it. I mean, they didn't play real well today. I mean, they were 22.5-point favorites, won by 8. They were down 26-12 at one point. I like fading teams off of big news, right? First game after big news. He's not playing tomorrow. We know that. Carolina has to have it. Now, I don't like doing that because they had to have it a few times. And I remember against Clemson, they completely failed considerably. And then against Duke the second time, they screwed that one up too. This one feels good.
Rac Jac, you bet Duke already, or you bet against Duke?
I haven't done either. I've just kind of laid low on him. As far as Flagg goes, I think he's fine. He ain't going to play in the ACC tournament, but if he was really in trouble, he would have had a boot on at least on the bench. I mean, they had him walking around. I mean, he's going to be fine for the tournament. I'm pretty positive.
How much is Flagg worth to you?
I like when Corbie said Auburn 2.5, I would hammer Auburn, to be honest with you, without Flagg. I don't think Duke would stand a chance without Flagg against Auburn.
Yeah, so more than 5 then? You think more than 5?
Yeah, I mean, Duke's very good, but he is so important, more defensively than offensively than most of them.
Agreed.
Kid's a great
snub for the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, I think 5. I think 5 is a conservatively fair number, though. And Corbie, if you wanted to get aggressive, you can make it 7, right?
Yeah.
He is, again. Now we've got to make this clear. This is the most transcendent recruit in years, right? I mean, he will be the greatest white American player since Larry Bird. That's the truth, right? And
I'd give him a bucket.
And I agree that he's elite defensively, is great on offense. We know that, but I mean, he is an elite defensive player. 12th in block rate. I mean, 7th in shot percentage in this conference. I mean, he does it on both ends. He's huge for them, and I don't think they get by Carolina without him tomorrow. I don't.
Yeah,
Nadu, you didn't like Adam Moore? I'm sorry, I was going to say Nadu. You didn't like Adam Morrison's career?
Listen, I loved Morrison. I loved JJ, but I love Jimmer. The problem is, did you expect any of those 3 to be what we think Mr. Flagg can be?
No.
That's kind of where I'm looking at it. They're great college players. Tyler Hansborough, all sorts of guys. Leitner. I think he is transcendent. I really do.
Rocco also, just a point. He needs blood flow. Resting and scar tissue becomes the issue. But I think by next Thursday, Friday, that swelling comes down. I am not a doctor, but I have rolled enough ankles to know and busted enough ankles playing ball to know that if it's not, an X-ray positive situation, you can be ready in a week.
But Sammy, let's say the tournament was tomorrow. He would play. I mean, he'd
Agreed.
find a way.
Well, it depends on who they play. If it's Bufu State, I don't think he has to.
Yeah.
But
what if they had to play
UConn or
Kentucky
Zaga,
tomorrow?
yeah, he'd play. He'd probably play. I don't know how many minutes he'd play. I don't know that I'd be betting his overs, but he'd fight to get out there, I would think. I think they'd shoot him up like Boobie Miles or Wendell Carter or whatever fictitious.
Boobie Miles didn't work out real well.
Yeah, well, maybe a bad example.
Hey, I told Sammy this on the phone earlier, but the most insane part of that entire play to me, like, yes, he's hurt. I think it's fine. He'll be back. The most insane part is, like, I didn't understand how much of some bunnies Cooper Flagg had. I mean, his nose was at the rim on that play. So, like, people were like, man, he has a bad ankle sprain. It's like, yeah, because I mean, he kissed the rim. Like, I shout out to him, an insane athlete, generational athlete. I'm excited to watch him play. I hope that this is just a grade 1. It looked kind of like a grade 1. Kind of grabbed the higher part of his calf. I think it'll be fine, but I think we're all kind of rooting for him to play. Hey, even if you beat Duke, like, you don't want to beat Duke without their best player. From a competition standpoint, you would like Cooper Flagg to be back, even if you don't like Duke.
Sure. Let's do one more question from the chat, and then I want to get a bet from everybody if you have one today or tomorrow. Some of you have alluded to one, but we'll give a bet to wet people's beaks. I know people are watching right now, 1,300 people. Corbie's going to have some obscure game that we're going to have to bet, and I know Rac Jac and Jeff are firing too. But this is from Cameron on Twitter. Thoughts on the Gators? Let's go around the horn here. Rac Jac, you start. Florida.
Love them. I'm almost upset that they're doing so well. I like when the team's a little under the radar. I think when Hanlogden decided to forego his red shirt, they know they're all in. Him and Condon down low. They got Martin, the transfer from FAU. He's a stud. Walter Clayton. I mean, they're loaded. Richard. Coach is really good. I mean, he might have a problem sending nudes to co-eds, but he's a great coach. That's a good team, man. I mean, right now, that's the team I'm all in on as far as winning it all.
Anybody else on Florida?
I'll say this. It would be fascinating if them as a 1 seed, they get Georgia in the second round as a 9. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the issue I have with this team, and I have made and Corbie knows this, I've called them the F word at times, the FRA blank name. And it's because if you can take them out of running up and down, you can make them play in the half court. I think they're a lot more susceptible. We saw Georgia go up big. And Georgia was up so many, they could never relinquish it. I think they may have relinquished it at one point, but yeah, I'm kind of, it depends on who they get. If they get like the Memphises and the teams like that, and they just kind of have the right road, they'll be fine. But I wonder a little bit about them. If they get the right team that can shut them down in transition, I wonder what they'll do. Because they're not, I know they're like elite defensively, at least on the surface, but they've had games this year where they've looked kind of lost on that end.
Full agree with Jeff.
Get somebody to grind.
It's hard to run fast for an entire March Madness and shoot well through. I will say this Florida team, absurdly talented. I would agree with you there. Like, this is not a hate towards Florida at all. But I do think I agree with Jeff. There's 2 ways that they score, and I think we've all kind of seen this as transition, and they're great at it. Walter Clayton is one of my favorite players to watch. And then the half court with like the Clayton drive mid, toss it oop to Condon on the other side. But I mean, it works on Alabama, who plays drop coverage and couldn't guard me and Sammy 5-on-2, which Sammy could shoot, but couldn't guard us too. I just don't know if that works versus the Dukes of the world that has a 7-2 guy to kind of clog the lane. So that's the only worry. I do think this is a talented team. From against the spread standpoint, I think they're probably a little too overvalued, but from a people on the floor, can they win it all? You need the right matchups. I would agree with Jeff there. One
other note on Florida. Okay, they have 4 losses here. One of them was that wild game. I think it was against Tennessee where they just kind of didn't show up and scored 44 points. The other 3 losses, they missed at least 10 free throws in all 3 of them. They're a bad free throw shooting team. And in close games late in this tournament, you cannot miss 10, 11, 12, 14 free throws. You're going to lose games like that. And they are 16th in this conference in free throw percentage. I think 230s overall. That's not good enough. That could lose games for you.
All right, let's go to the board of trade here. I'll go first. I'm going to give Kansas +3. I think the Jayhawks should be equal with Arizona. I get the disinterest. I get the appetite for Arizona. Nah, I'm going to take 3. If I make it pick 'em, Corbie, I take 3. So I'm going to go Jayhawks +3. That's at 9:30 tonight. It's a home game for them, basically, in Kansas City. And I think Self is going to do wonders against Tommy Lloyd. We shall see. Jeff, what do you like today or tomorrow?
Yeah, that line makes no sense. Did we just miss where Hunter Dickinson just destroyed Arizona at the rim? I guess we're just worried that maybe they're not going to have their legs after last night, but I agree with you on that. I'll go with one tonight, even though I do like that game tomorrow with UNC. I'll go off the beaten path. Let's go to historic Boardwalk Hall, Mount St. Mary's Marist, under 126.5. This game
Jeff,
is,
no way that's the game you're pulling. It's literally the game I was going to talk about.
well, I think you would agree. How can you bet the over here?
I bet the under.
Yeah, I love the under. I like these 120 totals. I think this game struggles to get to 60 apiece. I really do. I think we could see a 59-54 type game. Two bad offenses. Want to play slow. You're not going to run against Marist. Marist has nothing on offense. This is a bad offensive team. Or John Dunne. They always are. I think this is a ugly game. I think the only matchup this year, what was it, Corbie? Like 62-52 or something. Under 126.5. I like that. Or 127.5, I think we have even.
Yeah, you can take 27.5. You have a Pinnacle account, 128, but a lot of you don't. It's falling too. There's a lot of 127 out there. Corby, he stole your thunder.
So someone bet this over. That's why I was saying I thought it was a RAS release because it was at like 5:30. This moved up. I got 125.5, felt fine. 125.5, so 126.5, plenty fine. Okay. All right. Well, Jeff took my fun one. So let's see what we got here. We can go to the.
Weren't you going to play this bullshit right here? 795.
Yeah, but I told you.
He loves Tarleton.
He loves Tarleton.
Well,
but Don Daniels is back, Corby.
No sides.
No sides. Yeah, no sides from you. Total.
So he's going to play Alcorn Bethune, right?
No, I do love that Tarleton number though. I actually bet 2-1 dog. I bet that. But what can I get the Villanova UConn total at?
What's the rotation?
I could pull it in about once.
I got it. I found it. Total 134.5, down 2 points from 136.5.
Yeah, give me the under there. That'll be fine. I think that people somehow still sleep on the fact Villanova has a lot of good guard play. Like, I mean, this is a subscribed team. Dixon has been shut down by UConn plenty of times, and we know that's basically their entire offense. So this is mostly a play on like the fact that I think we still sleep on Villanova's ability to play defense. So I think this is an underplay through and through. And we're not going to make it official because I'm not allowed to play sides on Sammy Show anymore. But Tarleton, 6.5 point dog, Sam. Let me tell you, I have that at pick. So 6 points. That should tell you what you need to know. To my defense, pick sounds crazy, right? They haven't had their best player all year. Freddie Hicks in and out of the lineup all year. In the market, he's read as a backup player because that's how he's played all year. He's not the backup. In preseason, the coach literally said, and it's not a direct quote because it's been an entire basketball season, but it was something to the fact of like, if Freddie Hicks isn't on the court, we have to play a different type of basketball because he is our entire team. So he's back. He's healthy. Talked to a manager there. They said him and Grimes feel great. 6.5 is a lovely number there.
Rac
I guess
Jac,
my
bring us home, buddy. We gotta squeeze here. Go ahead, Jeff, and then
I just have to ask. I mean, I guess what was the excuse on losing by 20 and scoring 48 against Cal Baptist just a week ago?
Yeah, listen, we don't have to talk about past performance. It's about the future, all right? It's about the future here, boys.
Well, first, I'm going to tail both of those bets just because I don't have either one of those on the board. So I'm tailing them. I'm tailing Tarleton because I like that call actually. I'm going to keep it. Yeah, I'll keep it short. I like Riverside. Cal Poly defense is horrific. They're not going to be able to keep up with Riverside's guards. Cal Poly shot the lights out last night in the comeback versus UC Davis. I don't think this game's going to be particularly close. I'd say double digits.
Only on this show will we take you home with Riverside, Tarleton State, and Mount St. Mary's under. I swear to God, nowhere else on this planet will you hear that in a row, guys. Nowhere.
I didn't know there were rules on they had to be Power 5 games.
Not at all. No, I love it.
Trying to enjoy my drink, and Sam is mad about Tarleton State. Yeah.
I am not mad at all. I'm actually impressed that we hit 3 schools that most people would never bet. The problem with those bets is that when people lose on that bet, they're double mad because they never would have bet it without us. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
That's why they always win. 100% winners. If they don't win, Jeff Nadu at Jeff Nadu, DM him and tell him how mad you are. But
I get
Sam,
plenty of those already.
I'll make actually 2 quicks and then I'll be done. First, shout out Jeff, 8-minute mile. I love that shit. He was talking so much crap the whole time. So shout out Jeff. Enjoyed that. Second, talked about this on Twitter. Lipscomb. I'm telling you, Lipscomb is my crew. They might face Maryland in the first round. The reason I brought it up, I think they could shoot past Maryland's bigs. Like Julian Reese is going to have to be pulled out to the stretch 4, and they could shoot over that. Lipscomb would be a matchup issue for Maryland.
I'm going to leave everybody with this from Rocco Sal. I knew Freddie Hicks would be mentioned. Perfect. There we go. That's Jeff Nadu, Corbie Craig, and Rac Jac, who's on fire in college hoops. All my guys are rounding into form as we get ready for March Madness and the NCAA Tournament next week. Boys, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
Thanks.
All right, fellas. Have a good one.
All right. There they all go. Hide this comment. Drop this guy. Drop that guy. Drop myself. Hello. Lots going on here. I promised a surprise early in the show. And this gentleman has taken the betting space by storm. And I finally got to meet him over the weekend here in Boston. He is the star of Elf Spaces, the one and only Captain Elf, joining Chicken Dinner.
What's up, Sam? How are we doing today?
Oh, man, with those three are very good at betting buckets. And I'm sure the 1,500 people that are watching, I'm sure a lot of them are going to be so excited when Tarleton State doesn't go home tonight at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Oh, God. I mean, the thing is, people listening to your spaces will be sweating that because that game won't end until 1:30 in the morning. So people will still be in space.
They'll be sweating out the bet that Nadu gave on this show, on the Elf show. We love it. We love it. Absolutely love it.
So
I mean, I'm nervous too. Go ahead, Sam.
No. I'm glad to have you here. I mean, you're a hot commodity now. You're going to be on Bet Sweats tomorrow morning. You've got this push-up challenge tonight, which I want to get to in a second. I'm not going to ask for intel or anything because I don't care about that. I'm sure you're ready. But how did this whole Elf Spaces come about? How'd you get the idea, and when did you decide to pull the trigger and realize you got something?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I pretty much started the Elf Spaces just because I was bored while I was live betting and just grinding out the bets. It really is a grind. It's not like a luxurious lifestyle as an advantage gambler. So I would just fire up a Twitter Spaces, have my friends pop in and join. And what would end up happening is people would just be, talking to each other and getting each other riled up. So the people found that entertaining. And I'm a middle child, so I'm a professional at this. Like when someone would be, talking smack about someone, I'd be in that person's DMs like, yo, this person's saying this about you. And then they would come in and, kind of go at it with them. And that's kind of how it started. So it wasn't like a whole plan thing. It was kind of just like an off the whim. Like I was bored. So I'll just fire up Twitter Spaces while I'm betting.
Conflict is good. It's good.
It's good, yeah.
It is.
Absolutely is good, yeah.
I don't know how you do it sometimes 4 or 5 hours a night though. Like that is going to from a guy who used to do 5 chicken dinners a week, I just burned myself out because I did it during football season. Yeah. So it was late August through February, and I did it. In 5 40-minute episodes a week. You're doing more. You're doing more. I'm sure you're going to realize you're going to find that sweet spot where maybe it's only Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday, or whatever. Like the amount you're doing it at, you're putting up legendary numbers, but you got to have that fatigue on the back end, right?
Yeah, I'll say this is when I grew up as a kid, I'd be watching Twitch streamers, and they would just stream every day, like all day, same hours. So that's kind of how I learned streaming. So I didn't think anything of going 4 or 5 hours a night. It's just kind of what I grew up on, I guess. And if anything, I'm not the one fatigued. It's the audience that's fatigued because it's the same. It's the same characters. You can't. I don't know. You could. I mean, they a lot of the beef is still. It's all real beef, but sometimes it's recycled stuff. So my hardcore viewers will know that this argument's already happened and stuff. But I mean, I love it. It's so fun. So it doesn't feel like work, but. Yeah, I'm sure, as you mentioned, it will kind of boil down into something more concise and then go from there. Yeah.
You've gotten a lot quicker though on the eject button. I'll give you that. I think early in the Elf Spaces, and I sent you a DM. I think you had Mathis on one of the first shows, and I said, I know you don't know me, but there are a lot of people excited for this.
Yeah.
And I think when you first started, you were letting people go, but now when you hit, like, you're in control, right? And it's your show. And
Absolutely.
the more you realize that, and the more you wade through the bullshit, the better off it's going to be. But we're entertained, man. I mean, I'm up every morning. I'm on the air at 9:00 Eastern, so I'm up earlier than that. And my co-host Joe will text me. He's like, "You're still in here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I am too. I'm listening anonymously though." And I'm like, "Oh," which is another story for a different day. If you're going to the Elf show, show up in public. What's with this hiding?
Come on.
I don't get that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Come show your support. It helps me too, because then, like, if you're following, it'll show that you're listening or whatever. So I appreciate it. But it is like the guilty pleasure of gambling Twitter is watching the Elf Spaces. People don't want to admit that they're in there. Yeah. Okay. We're looking at a tweet. All right.
You put this tweet up. I did not. So you're getting ready for tonight. You have done so much on the media side of things that there is a prop going on whether or not you can do, is it 50 push-ups in a minute?
50 in a minute. Yep.
Look at this. Look at you living life. And I think last check I saw this was a 6-figure market, right?
Oh yeah, it's 6 figures. It's currently at 142,000 traded on a site.
You're going to do it right there. You're going to be like,
I'm going to
go to the back of the room and just drop down.
Yeah, I'm going to do it in my room. My friend is here today. He'll be filming me to get the, a different angle just to make sure everything's all set and good. But yeah, I mean, I'm nervous now. It started off as like a, people were talking about how many push-ups I can do, and Amanda Vance popped in and she's like, if you do 50, I'll buy you tickets to a hockey game. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. Like, that's something on the line. And then all of a sudden, Prophet X throws a lineup on it, and there's 144,000 traded on it. So now it's like it's a serious market. Like, that is a lot of volume. Like, if I'm looking at the site right now, and I'm the third most traded event behind an NBA game, the PGA Championship, and then the Elf market. All right. So, like, we're talking numbers here. It's ridiculous. And yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna do my best, but there's a lot of pressure, man.
You're definitely giving the people what they want. I did have I wrote down 2 names for you, by the way. I don't know if you're eventually gonna brand this thing. I mean, your show is an adventure, right?
Yeah,
but Elf's Adventure sounds like, I don't know that sounds okay. So I came up with the Elf Experience, or Elf's Escapades. I think that's a good place to start. I think branding is the next challenge, right? We like Spaces is X's thing. The Elf Experience is your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the idea. The names are solid. But it is, I guess, time to, try to expand the lore off of just Twitter and, branch out onto, I started an Instagram account. It's got like 180 followers now, but it's growing fast, man. It's exciting. It's cool. People are really, really invested. I've never had it like I don't know. I feel like the people that watch the show are like, they're really intrigued with the characters and the plot lines that are developing. It's pretty unique. I feel like there's a really unique aspect to the Spaces besides just like, a bunch of gamblers talking in the Spaces. There's conflict, there's resolution, there's storylines. It's not just like a, Univaria thing, I guess, if that makes sense.
It's the Maury Povich show for sports bettors. That's what it is. It's just everybody gets on stage and just wants to fight each other or argue with each other. And as I said earlier, conflict is good. All right, I'm going to let you run. I know you have a show tonight. Quickly, tell us what's coming up. We got the push-up challenge. What else is on the docket?
Watson, who's a Dub Club capper. He is well known for his Life of a Sports Betting Influencer YouTube series. Will be coming on after the push-ups. So, but I will say this: if I don't get the push-ups, I probably won't even do the segment. I'll probably just like go to bed.
Pull the pin, turn the lights off.
Yeah, because like I'll just feel awful, especially for the people that support me. There's people who bet like 8,000 on me to get 50. It's nuts. It's
then you're gonna have to go through the you're on the take bullshit.
Yeah. Yep. It's already the seeds have already been planted. I've been accused of rigging the competition, accepting bribes, all that stuff. Someone said I bet 80,000 on my own under, which is not true. There's no proof, but yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks for sure.
That's
Yeah.
Elf from the Elf Spaces. Maybe a new
Absolutely.
name in the future. Check them out tonight,
Who knows?
9 p.m. Eastern. Yes.
Yeah, we start at 9 p.m. Push-ups at 10:30, just in case you just want
And
to see
I
that.
told the producer tomorrow, I said, let's put them on as late as we can. Let's not put them on at 9:20. Let's push them to the
No.
final hour. You can see
Yeah.
Elf tomorrow to recap the Spaces tonight on Bet Sweats tomorrow. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, Sam. Appreciate you.
That's Elf from the
Yeah.
Elf Spaces. I'm going to leave everybody with one final comment here. This is from EG24, and this sums up the show to a T. To a T. Didn't know I was going to be on Tarleton and Cal Riverside, but here we are. Here we are. Thanks to my guests today. Thanks to Rick Allec from OddsLogic. Thanks to Jeff Nadu, to Corbie Craig, and to Rac Jac, who's on fire at Rac Jac 24. And thanks to Elf for a surprise cameo on Chicken Dinner tonight. I hope Cooper Flagg's okay. I like Kansas tonight. You heard the plays from the fellas. If you missed anything, you can hit rewind. We gave those bets out at the end of the round table. And this is something that was floated out on the morning show today on Bet Sweats. Duke to win the title. Again, it was before the flag stuff. Duke to win the title. Scheffler to win the Masters. Maybe we bet it at 22-1. Not a bad idea. And they both wrap up around the same time. So it's not going to be something that's going to sit in your account forever. So maybe Duke and Scheffler wheel together. Maybe not the worst idea. All right, that does it for us. Cash some tickets, make some money. No show next week because we'll be in Vegas, but I believe we're going to do a Spaces on Tuesday night. When the bracket comes out Sunday, the lines come out Sunday night. We're going to talk about the games on Tuesday, open it up to the audience. Any questions you might have, we'll answer that in due time on that show, on the live show. So I appreciate everybody listening here. We got 1,600, almost 1,700 people. If you like what we did and you like the guests that we had, hit that like button, subscribe to the show. We're on X, we're on Instagram, and on YouTube as I try and grow this thing from the ground floor. All right, that's it. No more. Make some money, cash some tickets, and we'll see you next time right here on Chicken Dinner.